Welcome to your first Spreadsheet Lab. We're going to use a spreadsheet to calculate different side lengths of a triangle and to calculate distance between 2 points. So in this spreadsheet, most of the description's there, but there are some places where you can enter in the side lengths of a triangle. You can enter in side length of 2 different legs in the green cells. And what we're going to do in the yellow cell is to create a spreadsheet formula to calculate the length of the hypotenuse C. And by the way, most of these spreadsheets will be the same thing. The green cells are places you can type in some numbers, and the yellow cells are places where you have formulas. Well, you've used the Pythagorean theorem quite a bit already, and you know that it's to find the side length C, you take the square root of a squared plus b squared. So in this cell, we're going to start by typing an equal sign. That's how you start every formula in a spreadsheet. Now there's no square root symbol here on our keyboard, so we're going to have to use what's called a function, and the function is called square root sqrt. So type that in and type an open parentheses. By the way, there's a little sign there which will show you how to use a particular function. This one's pretty straightforward, so we're just going to find the square root of 8 squared plus 13 squared. But don't do this. Don't do 8 squared plus 13 squared. This is not how to do it. And the reason is that will calculate 8 squared plus 13 squared, but what happens if you had a different triangle of different side lengths? This will always be stuck on 8 and 13. So instead, here's the beauty of a spreadsheet. We're going to have it use whatever is in this spot, whatever is in cell B3, and it will square that. So the way I do that is I click on B3, and I'm going to square. So the caret is a shift 6. There you go. So that's B3. Whatever's in B3 squared plus whatever's in B4. Type in this caret with shift 6 squared. We're almost done. I got to close the parentheses, and there we go. I'm taking the square root of whatever's in B3 squared plus B4 squared. Hit enter, and it did it. Now, to do that, that's probably longer than it would take you to do it on a calculator, but here's where the speed comes in. If you want to change a number and try a different triangle, let's make that 14 and 13. Or make this 3 and 7. If you had a calculator, you'd have to do this over and over again. Here, a spreadsheet, it does it pretty much instantaneously. This is always updated to be the right answer. Okay, the next thing you're supposed to do is kind of work backwards. If you're given a hypotenuse and a leg, you can calculate the other leg. I'm not going to show you how to do that. I think you can handle that. And there's one little optional challenge. If you know spreadsheets already, you might want to try this. There's a function called if, which can help you do something. If you have a bad triangle here, it can do something. If you have a good triangle here, it'll do something else. But only do that if you know spreadsheets already. Okay, and the last thing you're going to have to do is, here are 2 points. There's a point 1 at 3, 6, and there's another point at -2, 9. And you can use the distance formula to calculate that. Now before we go, I'm going to show you one other thing you can do. Like, the distance formula is pretty involved, and even this has multiple steps. You don't need to do everything in one big equation like this. We can do this in a couple different steps. Like, for example, I can make a spot here where I'll say, well, let's call this the square of this. So this is my a squared. Let's call this cell my b squared. And now we just need to add these two together and take the square root of it. So this equation now can look a little bit simpler. That I'm just going to now have to take a squared plus b squared and take the square root of that for my final answer. In this case, it probably didn't help. It's probably just as easy to do it in one big equation, but there are cases where it just gets a little bit tricky and you might want to split up the work into smaller pieces. Enjoy!